Welcome to the Genealogy Happy Hour, a place where new family historians can learn to document their family histories and celebrate their new discoveries. I'm Amy.
And I'm Penny, and we're here to help you discover your family tree from the beginning. Welcome to episode 110. Today we're going to be talking about all the wonderful items that your ancestors left you.
And that we will be leaving to our children?
We will be leaving to our children.
And what do we do with it all?
They're going to love it. They're going to love it. All of it. Well, we'll get into that.
Okay.
But first, we really might need some wine.
We probably will need some wine. Today we're going to be drinking some Armani Lugana from Italy. It is a medium-bodied white wine with notes of citrus, aromatic herbs. It has some mint, some sage on the nose, and it's very well structured with lively acidity. Acidity. Yes, I'm trying to say it. So anyway, it's lovely. It's light. It's summer, so we need to be drinking something that's refreshing
while we're
sorting through our stuff.
These things.
Our stuff. But first, let's do a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by newspapers.com. Break down genealogy brick walls with a subscription to the largest online newspaper archive. Did you know newspapers.com has over 1 billion pages of digitized newspapers dating back to 1690? Their growing collection includes newspapers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond. Discover birth and marriage announcements, obituaries, and everyday stories about your ancestors in seconds. Newspapers.com can help you fill in the gaps between vital records and reveal details about your ancestors' lives that you can't find anywhere else. Their easy-to-use search feature lets you filter your results by date, location, specific newspaper, and more. When you find something interesting, newspapers.com makes it a snap to share it with friends and family. You can even save it directly to your ancestry tree. Come explore 1 billion pages and make infinite discoveries today on newspapers.com. Use promo code HAPPYHOUR for a 20% discount on your subscription.
Okay, Amy, so we're talking about heirloom objects.
I'm excited about this because this is on my to-do list because I have a whole bunch of stuff in my house that I got from, not a whole bunch.
Clearly. I'm looking at you as like, are you going down the hoarder road, Amy?
No, not at all. No, these are things that I have that I got from my grandparents, or they were my great-grandparents, and my children really don't know anything about them. So I want to catalog these, take a photograph of it, catalog it, write it up where it came from, so that the kids know when I'm no longer here what it is, and then they can determine what to do with it after that. But at least they know what it is, and it has some value or has some sentimental value, the things that they want to keep. There's a couple of things that they know, but there's other things that they just have never seen or don't know because it's been put away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But not a lot.
Right. And we always have to remember, those of us that are these family historians, these things are important to us. They're important to the generation, that came before us even more. How important are they as the generations go down?
Right. Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of us, or maybe it's an age thing, as we get older, this is more important. Yeah. You find more people getting into genealogy as they get older. And so these objects, whatever it is that you're saving, and I have a few myself, hopefully they will get passed down to younger generations, and they will be loved or cherished.
Right. Maybe
not all, but hopefully some.
Right.
So I think what we have to do is, first of all, decide, is your object a heritage? Or is it something that's an heirloom?
Right.
Did it come from an old country? Was it something your ancestor made? What makes that object special? And do a little history on that object.
Exactly.
And I think, like you said, when you do the write-up and you're going to log it and have something written, which I would totally recommend doing, having a picture of the object and having a write-up. What it is, where it's from, all that, as much as you can find out, or as much as to have that.
Well, that's a good idea, because, for instance, like, let's just say, I mean, I've got lots of things, but one of them would be like my great-grandmother's cake plate. The first thing I need to do is, I mean, all I know is that it's my great-grandmother's cake plate. Mm-hmm. I've never used it. Mm-hmm. But so that time period, look to see if there's any marks on it. I might be able to, if there's a mark, trace that company, add that to my little write-up, add why, it's important, or, this particular was, salad bowl was always used by my great-grandmother for Thanksgiving, put all of those little details in there.
Yes.
Beyond just what the family story is.
Yes. And it makes me think of two stories. I've got several items that came over with my great-grandparents from France. Just they're little, a couple little bracelets, a little cameo. I've got them in a like a shadow box kind of thing, all displayed, and the information is on the back of the shadow box. But there could also be information or an heirloom that you're given, and I'm going to use your cake plate, like just that you might look up, and you find out the cake plate, you research it, you look for it on eBay or wherever, have that design, and you find out it's not as old as you thought it was, and it's something she bought at Sears Roebuck, and it was just, her favorite cake plate. Yep. So then you need to know that, no, it did not come from Germany with her family, but it was her favorite cake plate. Correct. And I think then future generations can decide, well, is that an heirloom I really want to keep or not? Yeah. I've had an outfit, a really cute little black jacket with a velveteen collar. It looks very 1890s kind of thing, and a couple little skirts that I had found as a teenager in my next door neighbor's house. We lived in these Victorian houses, and it was up in their attic, and she said, oh, you can take those if you'd like. Well, I was sure from day one that these were old antique outfits. How cool was that from this Victorian era house? So my aunt burst my bubble just recently. I pulled them out to show her, and she looks at the label. She goes, no. She goes, this is from the 1950s. Still old, but not what I was thinking. Because I was like, oh, this would be a really cool thing to, to keep and be like, look, you've got a jacket from the 1890s. No, not anymore. It was from the 1950s.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah. So we can go to the vintage shop.
Clearly, I don't know anything about fashion, and yes, it can go directly to the vintage shop.
Right. Doesn't get the write-up. Right.
Out of here.
Yeah.
But I keep it with a bunch of pillowcases and napkins that have been tatted or embroidered by ancestors from Ohio. And those are things that I'm like, I don't know what to do with them. I've never used them. I've just kept them in these bags. I know my kids don't want them or use them. Yeah. And they maybe should just be passed on, because God love the person that took the time to do all that work, and it is beautiful work, and maybe somebody else would use it and enjoy it, but it's not us. Right. So, yeah, you really do have to evaluate that heirloom object.
Correct. That's true.
Yes. So you were talking about what are you going to do with yours, and first you should make a list of all the significant ones, get them out, spread them out, take your pictures, include all that information that you said, the location. You need to also put like where it's stored at. If you're going to share these pictures with your family members, that they might want these at some point. Yeah. Here's where it is in my house, in this closet. Just in case. So put that on a spreadsheet or a Google Doc or some kind of heirloom tracking app, kind of thing like that. Label everything with care. Use acid-free tags. If it's
that's important, yeah.
Paperwork, whatever. Make sure it's not going to be something that's going to damage your heirloom, whatever it is. Don't ever write directly on the object if you can help it. Archival boxes. Keep it in a stable environment. Don't keep it in your garage, especially here in Florida.
Or the attic. Or the attic, yeah.
Right. And then, digitize your collection. Mm-hmm. You could even do blog posts about it for your family.
That's true, yeah.
Each post could be a different object, and here, this is what I have. And then maybe your family that you're sharing that with will be like, oh, I've got this. I can see my Aunt Mary now. She'd be all over that project. So store the digital copies in a family tree software. We talked about software a couple episodes back. That's a good place to keep those records as well. And then, of course, pass it on.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. In our genealogy software that we are now using, you can make those notes in there. I have, my great-grandmother's cake plate. I have my great-grandmother's, dress and where it's located. And so you can document that, too, within your genealogy software.
Yes, and have it attached to that person in your software.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and then you could print out a report for, everybody that has an heirloom object attached to them. I want to see that in a report. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot we can do with these, and I think clearly the most important thing is trying to decide which ones are the most important to really keep and pass on, and which ones we don't need to save, or who wants them, and document.
Yeah, I mean, I know that my older son has already said he wants our second great grandfather's Colt 1850 Colt revolver that he used in the Civil War. It's got his initials carved on it and everything. It's cool. But then I also have a pipe collection, and I'm like, I don't know if any of those pipes are even valuable. I doubt it. They've all been used. But I've got my great-grandfather's pipe collection that my dad used, my grandfather used. So I don't know. Is that valuable or not? I'm going to have to Google that and find out.
That would probably take a little research.
I think I'm going to have to Google that, and because there's a lot of pipes.
Yeah.
But so some of them are very easy and obvious that you want to document and keep that, and then the other ones are like,
Well, I think other ones, like I've got a dress that my grandmother made. She wore it. I think she made it. From back in, her early 1930s era. And, it's very faded. But what do I do with that? Do I keep it? Who's going to want it for the future? But yet, maybe there is some place that it can donate vintage clothing where, it could be used, because otherwise it's just going to be passed to somebody and they're going to keep it in their closet.
Yeah, I had a client who she had her mother had recently passed away, and I think it was like a 1940s post World War II wedding dress, and handmade, beautiful condition, but what do you do with that?
You know what that reminds me of? Do you remember going to the DAR meeting way back when, where this lady came in and brought wedding dresses from every decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was so fantastic. But she has to, of course, keep and store all these things. Right. But finding somebody like that who could preserve it and use it.
Right. But then to even today, our daughters, do they wear our wedding dresses? No. Right. But we've preserved them and we've kept them. And I think a coworker, she just, for when her daughter got married, there's a company, we'll have to put a link on it, that you can send your wedding dress to them, and then they will make different things for them. So they'll make a christening gown out of it, or they'll make, I think her daughter got a bride's like a little robe to wear the day of the wedding to get ready in, and then I think there was like a little purse, and there was a little wrap for the flowers. So they took different aspects of her mother's wedding dress and then repurposed them for her daughter, and then for they kept some for later, so they'll probably make a christening gown or something like that out of it. So.
I know my daughter's mother-in-law did that. She took her mother's wedding dress, maybe I can't remember exactly whose wedding dress, but she did make christening gowns for my daughter's kids.
Right.
So. Yeah. So fun. So there are things, I guess you can repurpose these heirlooms into something else. But like I said, the ones that I have that are small, I have in shadow boxes and up on my mantle. And
then it's also good to, like you said, share. If you share with your cousins or other family members, they may say, oh, well, I've got, grandma's, whatever, her mixing bowls or, whatever it is. And so you might end up getting photos and information from other family members as to what they got.
Yes. And that makes me think of my mom's cousin had a room in her house. It was like one of those sun porches, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was a museum to her family that came over from France. And she even had the screen door on the wall, like as a picture, the screen door that was in her grandmother's house. And, just so many memorabilia in that room. And, of course, my first thought was, what's going to happen to all this stuff? And, of course, she passed, and I don't know what's happened to all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Nobody really knows. So I'm hoping some of it stayed in the family, but it was a lot of stuff. It was beautifully displayed. It gave her joy.
Sure.
And
that's what we also have to remember, that this is our stuff is not going to be the stuff that brings our children joy. That was a part of our life and our memories, and they have different things and different memories. So,
or is there something that we have created that could be an heirloom one day?
Absolutely.
And do we want that to? Are we going to tell our kids, whatever you do not throw this out? They're like, that's the first thing that's going to go.
Well, and writing down those memories too of my first memories. Like I have a memory of walking up the stairs at this farmhouse, and these were relatives of my mom's, and at the time I wasn't sure who they were, but these were it was two old women and an old man, and I just remember going up the stairs in this strange farmhouse, and my mother getting a we call it a pitcher and bowl,
Oh yeah, right.
And we got that, and then pictures of my great grandparents who came from Germany. And it turned out that these two old women, the old man, were my mother's aunts from Germany, and they were going to be selling the farm, and so they gave my mother these things, and I have those today. But that's my first memory. I was very, very small, so maybe 3-4 years old, but I remember that memory doing that.
And that's important to you.
It is.
Yes.
And it was important to my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the bowl and the pitcher, they're not valuable. I mean, they're old, but they're not valuable. Yeah. But it was very important for my mom to have those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to put a checklist on the show notes or somewhere on our website for you if you're going to do some of these heirloom histories. And
I'm going to have to do this because, it's been on my to-do list for a while, and I just got to get
it done.
Get it done. I have to get it done, yeah.
And if anybody out there has any hints, like you've done it before, you're a pro at this, and you've got some suggestions or tips, please send us a comment on our blog post.
Absolutely.
Or an email, and we will share.
All right. Until next time.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening. Please email us with any questions or comments at genealogyhappyhour@gmail.com.
Visit our website, www.genealogyhappyhour.com, for additional resources, books, and wines. Don't forget to drink responsibly
and never drink around genealogical documents.